Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into Vadim Zeland's truly mind-bending concepts to uncover the hidden physics behind why trying too hard almost always leads to failure.
Okay, let's just jump right into this paradox. You know that feeling when you're trying desperately to fall asleep and all it does is keep you wide awake? Or how when you're trying so incredibly hard to forget someone, there's suddenly all you can think about? And yet, the very moment you finally throw your hands up, give up, and just stop caring, the exact thing you wanted magically drops into your lap. We usually brush this off as luck or coincidence, but what if it's not? What if there's actually an entire set of unseen rules governing how our reality works?
So the guy behind all this is Vadim Zeland, a reclusive Soviet quantum physicist. And here's the wild part. He doesn't even claim to have invented these ideas. Up until he was 40, his entire world was just the laboratory. Then, he had this highly specific, really strange dream. He's in this beautiful nature reserve and meets a grumpy, gray-bearded ranger who's super annoyed by complaining tourists. The ranger takes him to a hill, points down at a village, and tells Zeland that humanity basically doesn't understand the word choice. He leaves Zeland with this cosmic riddle. If you guess right, your apple will fall to the sky. Zeland woke up with just one phrase stuck in his head: Reality Transurfing. After that, he claims this unexplained knowledge just began flooding his waking mind. He acted almost like a transmitter, published 400,000 words across 5 books, and then basically vanished. No interviews, no public appearances. He just left us this incredible framework.
Let's move right into Section 1, the alternative space, the map of all possibilities. This is the absolute foundational blueprint of his entire theory. Zeland says we need to completely shift how we view reality. Don't imagine it as a blank canvas waiting for you to paint on it. Instead, think of it as a massive river delta. In this alternative space, every single possible timeline already exists, and they're all flowing concurrently. Think of a river hitting a slope and splitting. Just one tiny shift in the angle, and miles downstream, one branch waters a rice paddy, while the completely different branch feeds a lake. In this blueprint, the past, present, and future are all laid out simultaneously. So we aren't actually creating our future from scratch. We're just a drop of water navigating these intersections, actively selecting which pre-existing path to flow down based entirely on our thoughts and attitudes.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates why we shouldn't force things. Think about it. We've been taught since childhood to use what Zeland calls internal intention. This is essentially forcing an outcome with sheer brute effort. It's the language of, I insist this happens right now. It takes massive amounts of energy. But Zeland introduces a totally different concept, external intention. Because all these paths already exist, you literally don't need to hack your way through the jungle with a machete. You just need to adjust your internal state to align with the timeline you want. It's shifting away from trying to push reality to simply recognizing the right path and letting reality deliver the outcome directly to you.
But if navigating reality is just about alignment, what keeps pulling us off course? That brings us to Section 2. Beware of pendulums, the invisible energy thieves.
Okay, so the crucial point here is recognizing what Zeland calls pendulums. These are essentially invisible societal structures that hijack our focus and completely drain our energy. Whenever the attention, anger, or expectations of thousands of people focus on one specific thing, it creates an energetic pendulum. Think about the heavy pressure to get married by a certain age, or a toxic corporate overtime culture, or even the latest viral outrage trend on social media. These structures are real, and they actually feed on your emotional energy to keep themselves swinging.
Now you might be thinking, well, the way to beat a bad pendulum is to fight back. But here is the ultimate catch. A pendulum literally does not care if you love it or hate it. Both support and outrage are basically all-you-can-eat buffets for it. You cannot defeat a pendulum by arguing with it in a comment section, because your anger feeds it just as much as someone else's agreement. To actually defeat it, you have to completely withdraw your attention, turn off the notifications, physically step away from the argument, and make it totally invisible in your world. If you don't give it any of your energy, it simply stops swinging in your reality.
Now, let's explore Section 3, the balancing force, and the very real danger of caring too much. Because pendulums absolutely love to make us attach way too much importance to specific outcomes.
Think about when you declare something like, if I don't get this job, my life is completely ruined. Or, if I fail this one test, it's all over. When you do that, you generate what Zeland calls excess potential. In nature, absolutely everything seeks equilibrium, right? When there's a difference in temperature, you get wind. When water is high, it flows down to balance out. So, When you assign this massive life-or-death emotional importance to an otherwise mundane event, you're creating a huge, completely unnatural emotional spike in your energy field.
And nature hates energetic imbalance. It absolutely despises it, so it deploys a balancing force to flatten that spike out. This creates a really nasty trap called an induced transition. First, a pendulum, like the societal pressure to be successful, gets its hooks in you. Then you generate heavy excess potential by obsessing over the outcome. Finally, the balancing force steps in to fix the imbalance by pushing you straight into your worst-case scenario. It's why you freeze up during the exam, or why you completely bomb the interview. You literally attract the exact outcome you were terrified of, just so nature can restore its equilibrium.
The only way to stop this from happening is to consciously lower the importance of the event. You have to actively take the pendulum's hook out of your mouth. A test? It's literally just a piece of paper with ink on it. An interview? It's just two people having a chat in a room. By removing the exaggerated meaning, you immediately drop the excess potential, and you call off the balancing force. You can still care about the outcome, but you have to stop treating it like a life-or-death situation. Once we finally stop fighting pendulums and drop all that excess potential, we arrive at Section 4, the mirror principle. This is where we learn how to navigate the reflection of our reality using Zedlin's ultimate framework.
Zalin says we need to picture the world as a giant, dual-sided mirror. On one side is our physical reality, on the other is the alternative space we talked about earlier. But this mirror is incredibly tricky. It doesn't just reflect what you want, it reflects your relationship to the world as a whole. Crucially, it only reflects what you truly, deeply believe. If your mind is reciting all these positive affirmations, but your heart is terrified of failing, the mirror stalls, or worse, it reflects the fear. Because fear is an emotion where your mind and heart are perfectly, effortlessly aligned. The mirror also doesn't distinguish between desire and fear. It just sees where your focus is aimed. If you're intensely staring at a pothole because you don't want to hit it, guess what? You're going to hit it. You have to stop staring at what you don't want.
Now, what's really interesting here is the time delay. The mirror of physical reality is thick and heavy. When you change your thoughts, the reflection doesn't shift instantly. It flows slowly, kind of like developing an old-school photograph in a darkroom. This is where most people get tripped up. They change their mindset for a week, look around, see absolutely no physical evidence of change, and then they give up, assuming the technique isn't working. But the reality is just delayed. Think about it. If you mail a letter, you don't go checking the recipient's mailbox 5 minutes later. You have to hold that new mindset long enough for dense physical reality to finally catch up and reflect it back to you. To actually master this mirror, Zellin provides 3 highly practical tools. First is the target slide. Now, this isn't just passive daydreaming, it's actively living the feeling of your end goal every single day. If you want to open a cafe, don't just visualize signing the lease. Actually feel the afternoon sun on the counter, hear the coffee grinder in your head. Second is the coordination principle. This one is absolutely vital. When something bad happens, like spilling coffee all over your shirt, you must immediately declare it as a positive pivot. Literally say out loud, "This is exactly what I needed." Doing this stops the cascade of bad luck and forces your timeline onto a favorable branch.
And that brings us to the third tool, the anchor mantra. Zalin suggests installing this one simple phrase as your default background setting. My world takes care of me. Whether you find a $20 bill on the sidewalk or completely miss your train, tell yourself this constantly. Over time, it literally brightens the overall color palette of your reality. You'll start noticing the exact opportunities you need appearing effortlessly, confirming the belief until it becomes completely automatic.
But with all these timelines available in the alternative space and the ability to shift them, how do you actually find your true purpose? This brings us to our final section, Section 5, Finding Your True Door, by tuning to your soul's frequency.
This whole concept boils down to the fundamental difference between your mind and your soul. You see, our minds are heavily corrupted by those pendulums we talked about earlier. The mind constantly seeks prestige, money, and societal approval, basically goals implanted by society. But your soul, it operates on a completely unique, original frequency that existed way before anyone ever told you what you should want. If you use your mind to pick a goal, say grinding to become a corporate lawyer strictly for the status, you are basically using a pendulum's key on a pendulum's door, and it's going to be exhausting.
But when you step through your true door, aligned with your soul's actual frequency, the experience is totally different. Now, it might not be perfectly easy all the time, but it will feel incredibly smooth and frictionless. You'll find yourself completely losing track of time. Obstacles just seem to fade away.
and it feels like the universe is effortlessly handing you the keys. You don't have to carry a mountain on your back anymore. Honestly, if you're pushing constantly and feeling drained every day, you might just be standing at the wrong door.
So, let's circle back to that grumpy old ranger's riddle from Zealand's dream. If you guess right, your apple will fall to the sky. It's not some complicated physics problem. It's a test of whether we can finally let go of our rigid beliefs about how incredibly hard life has to be. The apple's direction isn't determined by gravity, but by which timeline we consciously choose to align with. So the question is, are you ready to stop fighting the gravity of your old habits, drop all that excess potential, and start actively choosing the reality where everything just flows your way? Think about it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next explainer.